Is the Vexus DVX22 the perfect bass, walleye, multi-species big water boat made? No, it's not perfect, but it's got a heck of a lot going for it. Follow me, we're gonna do a video series on my journey with this Vexus DVX22. Just so you know, I am not a sponsored fisherman, I'm not a boat dealer, and I do not work for the manufacturer. I'm a retail customer, and these are my observations as I transition to this platform after having owned a couple of other top-end boats. So I've already shot a lot of on-the-water footage, but the challenge with on-the-water footage is it's very difficult to capture the size and scope of the water conditions on video. I was shooting in 3, sometimes 4-foot seas, and it just didn't convey on the video, partly because this boat is incredibly stable. It's incredibly stable. I was jigging for lake trout on a reef, and it was at minimum 3-foot waves with the occasional 4. I was actually able to stand on the front deck, run the trolling motor, and jig leaned against the butt seat. Past boats, that really would have been scary, particularly in the middle of winter in 37-degree water where your life is really at risk. I was totally at ease. The boat is completely stable. Yeah, really surprising. No sway, no oil canning. Even when you have the boat across parallel with the waves, the amount of roll the boat has relative to particularly my last boat, the Lund 2075 Pro V, is really super minimal. Now we're gonna go on to a couple of gripes I have about the design. The first I have is about the rod locker and rod storage systems. Now, I know guys are really split on whether or not they actually use these tubes. I'm somebody who prefers to have rods rigged. I don't like fooling around with rod socks and reel covers, and I just know me. When I get a chance to go fishing, once I take that rod sock off, I'm not, taking the time to put it back on before I put the rod away, particularly not with walleye and salmon spreads that will exceed 12 rods. We're running from spot to spot. I want to just be able to slide it in the tube and go. So for a rod locker, this is what I expect. I expect to have the butts secured, and I expect to have a place to put the tips that keeps them separated and intact. I just threw some in here for an example, but stuff like this just gives me the shakes. First thing I can tell you is for the size of the rod locker, I think that this should be 3 rows of 6 for a total of 18 rods. Is 2 rows of 5, so it will only hold 10. So even though this space is bigger than in the Lund 2075 Pro V, it actually holds less rods. The other thing is, because of this taper, I don't know if they had some piping chases in here that they had to make it this way, but really limiting the butt section where the bulk, all of the bulk in a rod locker is in the reels. And these reels are very, very tightly packed. So you have to, really move some stuff around to get one out. The other is this, this is like, it looks like 3/4 conduit that's been coated with the same stuff the trailer's on or something like that. This is, this rod's been in here for about 2 hours of runtime, and it's actually cutting through the rod. I think in this class, they could certainly do quite a bit better in the rod storage design. Certainly in the Bass Series boats, where those guys are expected to carry a ton of rods, it looks like it's a little bit better done. The other gripe is also with the storage. That's the only 2 complaints I have in the boat. It is with these, overall with the lockers back here. So because of the lid, looks like they built this for structural design, but there is a ton of space back here. So I was actually, you can put another row of boxes on the side, which puts the total capacity for standard depth 3700s for each side box at 15. Because of my last boat, had different size storage compartments. So I'm working in a bunch of these smaller boxes over here. Also just kind of moving things around. Some of this is just getting used to it being different. It's not necessarily bad, but this I think was a bit short-sighted. So when you see these compartments on the promotional materials, it looks like it will hold 4 or more standard sized 3700s, and it won't. Here's why. If you put more than 3 in, and this happens to be a tall one, so it will work for our demonstration purpose here, but the latch hits the box and you can't close the compartment. So that's really unfortunate. You have to put in like 3 standard size 3700s, and then you can put one of these smaller boxes or something at the top so that you can maximize the storage, but it doesn't actually hold as many boxes as it looks like, and neither do the side tanks. The last thing I'm going to touch on today is the overall feel of the boat while riding, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the fit and finish people always talk about. Now, I looked at a couple other boats seriously. My final 3 were the Yarcraft 219 TFX, the Skeeter 2200 WX, and this boat. And ultimately, the Skeeter I eliminated because I didn't want to be stuck with only 300 horsepower, and I'm not a huge fan of Yamaha. I had one a few years ago, and it was okay, but it just wasn't special. So in terms of feel of the boat, you can tell there's an incredible amount of detail. Now, most of this does look pretty cutesy, and Vexus's marketing department that translated from the Ranger days is certainly alive and well here. They've done a great job of making this boat feel special. It definitely has that luxury performance car type of feel to it. Now I got the bucket seats because I run 90% of my time in big rough water. So those bucket seats with the air ride, it's very secure, very comfortable ride. But just silly things like this compartment lid, this is really solid. I've broken a couple of lids off of previous boats just because they flap around when they come loose, hitting rough waves and stuff. And it's this is impossibly secure. This is impossibly secure. It doesn't wiggle, it doesn't groan, it doesn't do anything. And I can, I just gave this a good yank, and I can do a overhand row of about 200 pounds. So that's pretty strong. The windshield, I'm not going to talk a lot about. I think everybody's done a good job of waxing about this windshield, except to say it is everything everybody says it is. It is super strong. It appears to be super durable. It's kind of pretty. I wasn't a fan of these wings when I first saw the boat a couple of years ago when it debuted, but they've grown on me. It adds a tremendous amount of strength to the assembly. The only thing that may be annoying, and I'm not entirely certain it's the windshield, is when I'm running, I do get a little whistle in the cockpit. But this boat, it feels like the rocket ship it is. In terms of speed, I've not done very much high speed driving, except I did 1 minute stretch during the break-in, and I hit 69.4 real easy without really knowing what I was doing between the engine height, trim, and everything else. So very close to dialed in. We're going to talk about the stern, wave attitude in the stern, wave attitude in the bow, some notes on the kicker, how it's placed, how it's mounted, how it performs, and some other things on the next video.